If you've tried watercolours before, then you may have found them challenging, but don't give up on them. The method I've developed works very differently. Hi, it's Anna Mason. Welcome to this episode of Nature Studio TV, the place to be to create a nature-connected creative life. In this episode, I'm going to give you an overview of the watercolour method I developed and used to create all of my realistic watercolour paintings. People are often surprised that they're actually watercolours because they associate watercolour with more watery, pale and fluid styles. But watercolours can be used in a much more controlled way to achieve realism and really dark colours. To understand my method, let's first go back to basics and think about how watercolours work. When mixed with even a little water, they're translucent, and so when they're applied to white paper, we can use the white of the paper visible through to create our lightest tones or values in our paintings. In fact, it makes creating these lightest tones easy. But the downside to translucency is that if you try to apply a lighter colour on top of a darker one, you'll still be able to see through to the darker colour underneath. Combine this with the fact that watercolours will move unpredictably, mixing with each other when applied wet on wet, and the fact that they often can't be wiped off the paper because they stain it, and you have the reasons why watercolours are often considered tricky to use. If you paint an area darker than you meant to, then you're in trouble. That's especially a problem when you're looking to achieve realism, because with realism, it really matters that you get your subject's tonal or value range spot on. So if you've tried watercolours before, then you may have found them challenging, but don't give up on them. The method I've developed works very differently. It has us paint in layers on dry paper to gradually build up our colours and preserve our highlights. Working like this also solves another problem we experience when we paint. The way that we perceive tone or value is dependent on the tones that we see around it. What this means for us when we're painting is that we won't be able to judge whether we have the greys in our petals the right tone before the darker leaves are painted too. But we can't get the leaves right until the petals are as dark as they should be. So in short, we need to gradually build up our painting bit by bit, assessing our tones as we go. To allow for this, I begin by working on the lightest tones within a painting, so with a pale watery mix. This also serves to map out what colours should go where. And if you do make a mistake at this stage and place paint in the wrong area, you're much more likely to be able to wipe that paint off with some damp kitchen paper because the paint isn't very dark. Next, I work on a few key areas of the darkest tones within the image to establish the upper and lower limits of a painting's tonal range, which then really helps when it comes to working on the midtones. Once I've worked on the midtones, I can go back to the lightest tones and adjust them, then the dark tones again, and so on, building up layers of paint until everywhere is as dark as it needs to be. Crucial to working in layers like this is that I ensure my layer underneath is dry before I apply the next one. This stops the colours from muddying and bleeding into one another on the paper, and crucially, it keeps me completely in control of the marks that I'm making. To keep colours clear and vibrant when working in layers, we need lots of the white paper to be visible through the layers, so we need to use watercolour paints that are defined as transparent. That's a quick overview for you. If you've struggled with watercolours before and you'd like to achieve more realism in your work, then I'd like to invite you to try painting in this way. It places you firmly in control and allows you to relax into the flow of painting without the stress, because painting is meant to be fun. You can find a whole library of detailed step-by-step instructional tutorials to develop your painting skills with Nature Studio membership. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Nature Studio TV, then pop over to naturestudio.com where you can sign up for a free class and find loads of free resources to help you experience the joy of capturing nature's beauty on your paper. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.